Hello, my name is Christine Pruis. I'm the chemist on staff at Norton, and together we're going to take a look at how to view student results within the adaptive assignments of Smartwork5. Here we see two assignments, the second of which is an adaptive assignment. This is visually indicated to you by the icon to the left of the title. On the far right, we see some information about the scores and a green reports button. When you click on the Reports button, it brings up the class activity report. You see a bar graph, a pie chart, and another bar graph, but you also see three tabs titled Students, Questions, and Objectives. The Objectives tab shows the learning objectives that were assessed within the assignment. The ones with the icons were the ones which the students had to show mastery on within the adaptive component. The middle tab is the Questions tab. For a static plus adaptive assignment, you will see the questions which you selected from the library, as well as the follow-up or perhaps a warm-up listed. You can see the average score and submissions and attempts and time for each of these. You can drill down further and view the actual question information. So here at question 8, we see all the detail on the questions. But for the follow-up, you see the following information. You see how many students have not yet started the follow-up, how many students have mastered a learning objective, and how many students have started but not yet mastered. You also see how each student is performing within that follow-up. You also have the option to reset or change grades for the follow-up on this page. If we close this, we then can go to the Student tab where we see even more information. For each student, we can see their score on the assignment, their mastery of the 4 learning objectives within the follow-up, how many questions they answered within the adaptive component versus the static. Notice that some students only had 1 or 3 questions within the adaptive assignment, and some students had many more, up to say 18. If you want to see more information, you can click on this arrow next to the student's name. So if we click on this student, we see how the student performed in these 8 questions, as well as on the follow-up. Each of these questions can be selected and all student attempts can be viewed, incorrect answers. And the same type of thing can happen here with the follow-up. When you click on the arrow next to the follow-up, you see how this particular student earned mastery on the learning objectives within the assignment. We see what's called the high water mark here, and that then is where the student's score was obtained. But it looks like that student then did lose mastery by answering questions on the LO incorrectly later. If you scroll further down, you can see every single question that student saw within the adaptive experience. You can see the name of the question, you can see the type of question or instructional content, the learning objective that was being assessed, and then whether they obtained it correct, incorrect, or some combination of that. You can also then see the exact experience of the student by clicking on the arrow next to the question and viewing that student's specific attempts on that question, what they answered correctly or incorrectly, and how many attempts it took them. And you can scroll through and see the complete experience of the student, all the questions, instructional material, etc. This page also lets you see how different the experience is for each student. This student had to answer 10 questions within the adaptive experience, but here we see a student who had to answer only 4 and yet still has 100%. So we can see the student answered questions correctly and did 1 or 2 attempts on the initial part of the static assignment. So when the follow-up was attempted, only 4 questions were needed to prove mastery. Again, a very different experience for every student depending upon their performance.